Hello and welcome to EdSpace, where we discuss some of the week's top headlines with Mint's editor Sukumar Ranganathan. Welcome to the show, Sukumar. First off, this time politics. We have two Mood of the Nation surveys which have come out this week, which say that the NDA is poised to, take a major leap over the UPA if polls are conducted right now. What does it mean for the government? Because, the government has taken a whole lot of steps. The direct benefits transfer for one, a whole lot of reform initiatives for another, to say that, here we are decisive, we've come out of that, that corruption, paralysis period that we had when we were sort of, scam after scam was paralyzing the government. What does it say about the mood of the nation and the government?
The first thing is we should take all these surveys with a pinch of salt, right? That's the first thing. But that said, the results of this survey are not counterintuitive at all. The kind of results that everyone, you, me, people on the street, most people would agree with. And the main reason for that is if you look at the period since 2004, the United Progressive Alliance hasn't exactly covered itself in glory in how it has performed, the kind of things that it's done with any constituency, right? Not on a concerted basis. There have been bits and pieces that have been done for various people. One, reaching out to poor, unemployed people in rural areas with the job guarantee scheme, the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, or the farm loan waiver. And some of these had them come back to power in 2009. But if you look at it over a significant period of time, I think most constituencies are pretty unhappy with them. The poor people, which is the major constituency of the Congress and what they call the Aam Aadmi, are not exactly happy because inflation has just wreaked havoc on them. It affects those people the most. The middle class, especially the salaried middle class, completely disillusioned with the spate of corruption scandals and everything else, and all these exposures that were made by Kejriwal and everything else. And that's the business community not happy because the economy isn't doing well. And for a long period of time, when Pranab Mukherjee was the finance minister, the finance ministry worked as if it was in the 1970s when the rest of the country was in 2011 or 2012. Yeah. So most constituencies were unhappy, and I think what you're seeing now is just a reflection of that. Like you said, since September, the government has done a lot of things, taken a lot of policy measures. I wouldn't call all of them reforms, all the economic measures, but they've done their bit to attract investment, boost investor sentiment, boost business sentiment, spoken of and done things to ensure a stable tax regime, which wasn't there previous. There was a lot of discretionary, there were a lot of discretionary things that were happening before. So they've tried to do all that, but this has happened in the last few months. So it means, I don't think at one level, I don't think they've had enough of an impact yet. At another level, I'm not sure people are deeply convinced yet, right? They see this happening and they're hoping that it continues. Like us, for instance, right? We see what's happening. A lot of these are very, very positive steps, especially the moves to cut the fiscal deficit. I think this is something that should have been done long ago, but they're finally getting their hands around it. Direct transfers again. Which, if carried through to its logical end, will mean more efficient spending of government revenue, of government expenditure, So I think we've seen a lot of these things, but we'd like to wait and watch and see how these transpire. Now, the good thing is, we're not going to go to the polls today.
Right.
We're not going to go to the polls tomorrow. And I don't think you're going to see a huge clamoring by political parties wanting to go to the polls, because I think most political parties are not ready. The two big ones, the Congress, if you look at it over the last few months, if you look at the kind of noises they've been making, if you look at the kind of steps they've been taking, they're clearly getting ready for the polls. And to my mind, they seem far more ready for the polls than anyone else. But that said, polls aren't going to happen tomorrow. They're not going to happen this month. They will probably happen in 2014 when they're scheduled to happen. I may be wrong, but that's how it looks like right now. So this is actually an opportunity for them to know that, listen, this is the mood of the nation right now. So if I were in the Congress, I wouldn't dismiss these surveys. I would take them to heart. And I would try and get more information on why these people are unhappy, what's happening. You probably know most of the answers already, but it makes sense to find out specifically why this is happening, try and break down the data at the level of various constituencies. Why are farmers unhappy? Why are business people unhappy? And these surveys might not have the information, so the Congress might have to do its own work, but it gives it an opportunity to go out and find out why there is this large-scale disillusionment with how it's been running the country. So, and if they find out and they act accordingly, I think it's good for them. If they dismiss this survey, I think they'll be dismissing these surveys at their own peril.
So you're saying that the government has a bit of breathing space, a very small window, a breathing space.
Yeah, it's got around a year, I would guess, right? Or actually, it's got around 4-5 months in which to find out how it's gone badly wrong and try and do things. This budget, to my mind, will be a very, very significant budget from that perspective. Because I think in the run-up to the budget, you're going to see a lot more of these hard policy measures that are announced, some of them seeking to target the fiscal deficit, some stabilizing the tax regime, attracting foreign investment, making it easier to do business in India, trying to improve the investment climate. And some of these would be unpopular measures. The budget itself, I would think, will probably be a little more populist, considering the fact that it's the last budget before election year.
Talking about Mr. Chidamabaram, he's on his roadshows, or he's just finished them rather. What has been the impact, do you think, of the roadshows and what the finance minister said on foreign investors, for example? Because clearly they were addressed to the foreign investors.
I think the investment community, not just foreign investors, I think the investment community has always been fairly approving of Mr. Chidambaram's actions, no matter which government he's belonged to. Yeah. If you go back in time and look at it. And I think one of the reasons is the clarity that comes through when he speaks, when he communicates, and the fact that he doesn't give you a vague answer when he's asked a specific question. He tries to be as specific as he can. And I think the foreign investment community had a lot of concerns, especially about taxes and everything else. And I think he's been fairly explicit in what he said. And my sense is that message has gone down well. Now the thing is, can we take the fact that message has gone down well and immediately assume that this means next year we're going to see a huge turnaround in the economy? I don't think so. And if you look at some of what the finance minister has said to these foreign investors, his expectations of growth next year are modest, much better compared to this fiscal, but he's speaking in terms of the fiscal after, which is 14-15, really seeing India getting back to that near 8% level and maybe exceeding that. He hasn't said maybe exceeding it, but he said like getting close to 8%. So, and I think it's a good message to send out, especially from someone like him, because the investment community takes him very seriously. He's not and he has not shown himself to be the kind of person to either change laws in a hurry or do the kind of things that bring about some instability in the system, and because investors fear instability more than anything else. They want complete clarity, because it's on the basis of that investment decisions are made. And I think from that perspective, he's a very soothing presence to have in North Block. He's a very calming presence to have in North Block. I think he's a good salesman for India.
You spoke about the budget, that it's likely to be populist. But is it also likely, I know this is sort of crystal ball gazing, but is it also likely to have some kind of, further measures to soothe investor sentiment, to bring investment, to bring money into India for FDI, for example?
It could.
Yeah.
See, I think, I don't know when, at some point in time, this government is going to have to make a big announcement about GST, right? Give a timeline, say, okay, this is what we are going to do, which indicates that it's moved beyond a point of no return, and you're going to have closure very soon. I don't know whether that's going to come in the budget. I don't know whether it's going to come before the budget or after the budget. But to my mind, that's a very, very important step, because there have been several studies that have been done. The math behind some of these studies is a little dodgy, and each one of them ascribes a different contribution of GDP that will go up because if GST comes into play, and they're speaking in terms of 1 percentage point or 2 percentage point increase simply on account of this. So I'm not so sure about the math, but I do think it's a very, very positive step moving towards GST. I don't know when they'll do it though, but see, what do investors want? They want clarity when it comes to foreign investment. Not really something that's covered in the budget.
Yeah.
So I think in the run-up to the budget, you'll probably see a few more announcements. They want clarity on tax.
Yeah.
And already we've got some clarity on tax. You'll see more emerging. And maybe there'll be some of that emerging in the budget. It'll be interesting to see what the budget does on the tax front. Because Chidamabaram specifically said that there won't be huge changes in tax and that the regime will remain, that the tax regime will remain stable in this budget. But this government also has to find some way of increasing its revenue, because it's going to have to spend a lot of money in the coming year on various schemes that are targeted at voters. So you'll have to see how that balancing goes. I have no idea. I have a feeling that they'll do all the tough things before the budget, and maybe the budget itself will be extremely populist, but that's my sense.